Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us. And of course, congratulations on your admission to NYU. My name is Camille Wilson and I work on the marketing and communications team in the Division of Enrollment Management. And I am thrilled to welcome you to our event today, which is part of our Your Future in Focus series. So today's session is all about STEM. So you will be in the front row for a nice little fireside chat between a current student and an NYU alum who's working in the field. And really our hope for today is that you'll walk away from this session with a deeper understanding of how our students, with the support of our incredible staff and faculty, really get to leverage their skills and talents to secure the future of their dreams. But before we dive into our conversation, I did want to share just a few housekeeping tips with you. So please note that all of you will be muted for the duration of our event today, but we absolutely would love for you to be a part of the conversation. So if you have a question for our panelists, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We also have some staff members and some alumni who are working behind the scenes to get those questions answered as well. We won't cover any admissions or financial aid information today, but I imagine that you may have some questions about that because the deadline is swiftly approaching. So if you do have questions about any of that, we have a ton of resources for you. So feel free to visit our website. You can call us, you can send us an email. Our staff is always happy to address any of the questions or concerns that you have. All right, so I'm gonna get out of the way so we can get started. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Admissions Ambassador Krish Raghuraman and our special alumni guest, Tanya Gupta. And with that, I will turn it over to them to get started with our conversation. Thanks so much, ladies.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to meet y'all, albeit virtually. My name is Krish. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm a junior at NYU Tandon, majoring in business and technology management, and home to me is Abu Dhabi, UAE.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Gupta. I graduated from Tandon with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering in 2019. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently based in Chicago. I am an artist, engineer, and entrepreneur.
Wow, that is so cool, Tanya. How did that happen? That's such a great mix of things.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I graduated from NYU with an engineering degree. I've always been a pretty creative person. So after I graduated, I started kind of dabbling in multidisciplinary art. So I do a lot of painting, a lot of digital artwork, Photoshop art, photo manipulations. And during quarantine last year, I had a lot more time on my hands. So I was practicing Photoshop like 2 to 3 hours a day and sharing my artwork online, and I amassed somewhat of a following from it. And now I actually kind of have like a bit of a side hustle. So that's really exciting. I've worked with some brands like Lancome and Tom Ford Beauty and Bliss as a result of just kind of sharing my digital art. So that's another facet of my career. And I've been in the entrepreneurship space since I was at NYU. I participated in the Stern 300K competition, and I'm sure I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but that kind of still stands today. Since I have a side hustle, I have to have a business development mindset. So I kind of combine those three things.
Totally. That's incredible to me that you're able to focus on your passion past graduation as well. Speaking of your Stern, you mentioned was it an entrepreneurship endeavor?
Yeah, so the Stern 300K competition kind of facilitates this. At the end of the competition, you can win up to $100,000 in grants towards building your startup company. So I co-founded a startup company called Curtain Call with 3 other female co-founders, all NYU students. I'm no longer working on the project now. It was a music ticketing startup, so it was in the concert business. And obviously since COVID, there haven't been very many of those, but yeah, Stern 300K was a great resource, and so was the Entrepreneurial Institute, where we kind of did a bunch of boot camps and talked to people who are in the industry to help us with market research.
I completely agree with that. Myself, I'm still in school, obviously junior. I was able to partake at the Forbes Idea Incubator Challenge hosted by NYU Tandon. And that just goes, to me at least, that goes to show like how you're not only allowed to like take classes that are directly related to your major. I've always been very interested in the entrepreneurial side of my major. I am business and technology management. So while a lot of that is management of technology, I'm concentrating in finance, and hopefully in the future, you know, in your footsteps too, like I might want to just start something as well. And with the Forbes Idea Incubator Challenge, my team and I actually placed first. And we, like through NYU's like resources, we were able to build this electric car that Audi has somehow, I don't know what they're gonna do, but I think they're gonna prototype it in the near future. And we won $50,000 in grants.
Oh my gosh, snaps. That is amazing. That's so funny that you mentioned that, because I actually partook in the very first Forbes Idea Incubator that NYU ever hosted with Audi back in 2017, I think. So, and we did not come first place. So congratulations. That's so exciting. That's awesome.
Wow, I love how we're just like getting to know each other and we have like these little connections.
Definitely.
Yeah, you said you majored in mechanical engineering. How did that like happen?
Yeah, so I actually came into NYU with big plans of being a biomedical engineer. I had kind of like taken a bunch of engineering classes in high school and also did some summer programs at various universities that were in the engineering discipline. And I wanted to build prosthetics. So that's why I chose to do that. And then I took my first biology class and I was like, this is not for me. So I switched a few times. I think I first switched to electrical engineering and then found that to be a little bit too narrow of a scope, like kind of post-grad for job opportunities. So I ended up with mechanical engineering because it's kind of a more general discipline and you can kind of go in a lot of different directions with it, which obviously I did. So that was really helpful for me. How did you land up on business technology management as your major?
Ironically enough, I came in as mechanical engineering. I came in as mechanical engineering, not really set on mechanical engineering. I was just trying to explore. A lot of people have like this mindset that once you pick your major, you're stuck with your major for like the entirety of your 4 years. But the great thing about NYU and NYU's resources, for me, it was my advisor who kind of sat me down and said, okay, you need to understand that, is this something that you want? And my advisor was the person who kind of allowed me to think that, oh, I'm not stuck in this, you know, major. And yeah, I just realized that mechanical engineering wasn't for me at the end of the day. And I switched to business and technology management. I knew for a fact I wanted to stay at Tandon because I love Tandon, but I found the major of, you know, my choice.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah, Tandon is a great place.
Yeah, and like I know you mentioned like the startup that you co-founded was affected by the pandemic, but like what else has been affected by the pandemic in your like day-to-day?
Definitely. So I can kind of answer this twofold. So I don't actually think I mentioned this, but full time, I am a hardware developer at IBM currently. That's my full time profession. And as a result of working from home, my role kind of had to shift a little bit. I'm really grateful to have a manager who works with me to make sure that I feel challenged and fulfilled in like the work that I'm doing every day. And since a lot of my training was very hands-on, I kind of my pace really slowed down as a result of working from home because I wasn't able to learn everything so quickly being on site, working with the hardware in real life. So I actually started to seek out my own opportunities. I have a very strong passion for virtual reality, mixed reality in general. I've been developing in mixed reality since I interned at NASA, where I was at the Augmented and Virtual Reality Lab at Kennedy Space Center. So since my day job at IBM didn't entail very much mixed reality development, I actually sought out opportunities that were trying to apply VR or AR in different solutions across IBM. So that was really exciting. I kind of got a chance to work in the industry and the field that I really like, even at like a big corporation like IBM. And then when it comes to my artwork, like I mentioned before, I really kind of took off with that as a result of being home and having more time. So really, it's just kind of been really good for my professional development. It's a bit like of a silver lining of, you know, being at home for the last year or so. But yeah, it's really worked in my favor.
That's amazing. I didn't know you interned at NASA. That's so cool. Yeah. How did you like land that internship? Was that at your time during NYU or?
Yeah, it was. So it's kind of an interesting story. I kind of went throughout my undergraduate career, definitely applying to a lot of different internships and co-ops throughout my time, but I pretty much got rejection after rejection, which is completely normal. But you know, I didn't really have any work experience in the industry throughout my time, and then like the summer before my senior year, I threw out probably 150 plus applications just out of desperation, but it ended up working in my favor. I had to make a really difficult decision because my first internship, I did 2 co-ops at NASA. One was in California at Edwards Air Force Base at Armstrong Flight Research Center, where I was working on building what will one day be the first Martian aircraft called Prandtl M. And then my second one, like I mentioned, was in the augmented and virtual reality lab over in Florida. But I had to take my final semester of college off. I had to basically second semester senior year, which is supposed to be a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of partying. I had to sacrifice that to kind of go across the country and work in the desert, work at NASA, but you can't say no to NASA. So I ended up doing that. It prolonged my degree, you know, one more year, but overall it kind of completely changed the trajectory of my career. So I wouldn't say that I would do it any differently.
Yeah, I agree with that mentality. Like everything like works out in the end. And I agree with the applying part. I'm a junior right now, just about to finish my junior year. So I know the hustle for the summer 2021 like internship.
You get it.
Totally, 150 applications. But how I like got my internship, I think I owe like it directly to NYU's resources because I am an international student. I mentioned it like very briefly. Home to me is Abu Dhabi, UAE. So new country, new like rules, regulations, like immigration policy, everything. And I was pretty much deer in the headlights, did not know what was going on, who to go to. Through like the Wasserman Center, that's how I got my internship, and that's just our like career service center for like the people in the audience. I'm sure you know what it is, and I'm sure you've used their resources too. Yeah, but they helped me set up Handshake, which is our like job finding site, and that's how I landed my on-campus interview.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I also used Wasserman during my time at NYU. They did not help me actually like kind of find internships because I searched for all of mine externally. But anytime that I had like an interview or wanted someone to look over my resume, because as you may know, you have to change your resume based on every job to kind of tailor it. You know, little things that
Yeah.
well, it's supposed to be very helpful, especially if you have a very big like kind of breadth of work that you've done. You don't want to mention every single thing. But see, again, I would not have known that if I didn't consult somebody at Wasserman who kind of walked me through the process. And I still kind of look back to the advice that I was given during that time to this day, because there's so much that I learned there that, you know, I wouldn't have learned otherwise.
And I like agree with that too. I've also gotten incredible like career advice from my professors, and not even just like career, it's just little snippets of advice here and there. I remember I came in mechanical engineering, so we have to take this class EG 1003. I'm sure
Oh,
you've
I remember.
it's pretty much a class where you use Legos to build a robot and you have to program the robot. It's very interesting. I thought it was really fun too. At the end of the day, we're super attached to our little robot that we made.
Absolutely.
But yeah, my professor during like our little presentations that we would do every week, they pretty much gave us like personal advice on how to make the best corporate presentation. Even though no one's asking for it, I still use those like little snippets of advice in my other presentations for my classes, and it's worked out tremendously. So it's kind of surprising here at NYU where you'll find your advice. But it's just always good to have like an open mind and just keep your ears and eyes open too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I really love that a lot of the faculty at NYU, especially at Tandon specifically, are people who have worked in the industry for a very long time and are either adjunct faculty who are, kind of teaching part-time, or that they've just kind of converted full-time to being a professor, but they have such a wealth of knowledge and experience that they can relate to you. From day one, like you mentioned, freshman year is when you take EG 1003 as a mechanical engineer, and they're right from the get-go, even though it's like an engineering class that you're learning a lot of these really technical things, they tell you right from the start to have a business mindset, like know how to pitch yourself. If you get into a situation where you need to pitch a development idea to like a VC or something like that, they really kind of prepare you for success in that sense. And it's good to start thinking about those things early, because it may seem kind of out of your scope, but you blink and you're done with school, and before you know it, you need to actually be applying it in the real world. And I can say from experience that that's really held me in good stead.
Yeah, totally. My accounting professor, yes, we do have finance classes at NYU, at Tandon. I'm actually concentrating in finance. Yeah, my accounting professor, he not only did he like provide us with, just general advice on like what to do to get internships with respect to like interviews and stuff, but he also helped us personally. I think, yeah, he skipped class one day and he dedicated it to teaching us about the stock market, but not in like the sense of the business world with all of that terminology that I certainly still find hard to understand. But he kind of just presented it to us in layman's terms. And now, like, I'm like investing in the stock market, even though I'm still a little like, what am I doing? But just having that as a resource is very beneficial, especially early on.
I wish I had taken that accounting class, because I could have used that knowledge myself.
Yeah, but like I know we've spoken so much about like our careers and what we plan for the future. But personally, like how did NYU like benefit you? Like what was like a really fun memory you had at like Tandon or something?
Yeah, well, NYU was always my dream school since I was really little. I was heavily influenced by like TV shows and movies. Every single teen show ever since the dawn of time, it's like, I want to go to NYU. And I also really wanted to move to New York City at some point in my life. I was kind of expecting it would happen in my mid-20s, but it happened, when I was 17, thankfully. But I really made the most of my time at NYU. I was very involved in school. I, like yourself, was an admissions ambassador. I used to give out tours and answer questions from prospective students and do the whole shebang, wear all of our cool purple outfits. Loved that. I was also a resident assistant, which was really great financially as well as, professional development wise. But when you're a resident assistant, you don't have to pay for your housing. You have to work a lot, but that's kind of the trade-off that they give you.
Right now.
Like, oh my gosh, wait, that's amazing. Which hall are you in?
Othmer Hall.
Oh, that's so you were in Brooklyn. That's awesome. I was an upper class RA at 2nd Street.
Oh,
that's so cool. I love Othmer. Othmer is one of the freshman residence halls in Brooklyn at the Tandon campus. That's where I lived, and it's honestly, in my opinion, maybe one of the best ones. But yeah.
A question and just a little bit of time left. How manageable is balancing classes and an internship?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I actually was not taking classes while I was having my internship. So I took my spring semester, January to May, off for one, and then the other one was during the summer. So generally with co-ops, I think that you're kind of working full time. Do you have any experience, Krish, interning while taking classes?
I think that the flexibility of, okay, 2 important things. Number 1, understand that your schedule is very flexible. Number 2, be wise about it, maybe like plan ahead. If you do plan on taking an internship during like your semester that you're taking classes, maybe plan your classes so you're taking less intense classes that semester. So the balance is a little easier. I would also say like just use Google Calendar. Like that's just something that I've learned throughout the years.
Definitely. Time management is of utmost importance. But yes, it is very flexible. You can work with your advisor to make sure that you have time in your schedule. Usually they have multiple versions of classes, like some are in the morning, some are in the evening, so you can kind of rotate. But yeah.
And like speaking of like, you know, learning throughout the years, like what's one piece of advice like you have for people considering?
A little bit of wisdom to impart on the newbies. Yeah. Well, I think that I can speak from experience with this. You know, I moved to New York City from a suburb of Chicago. And I imagine, you know, people come in from all over the world and all sorts of places. When you first kind of go to New York and to NYU, you may find yourself feeling a little bit lonely. I mean, there are plenty of resources and opportunities to make friends, and you will probably make lots of friends, but sometimes it can feel like you're kind of alone because it's such a new environment and it's unfamiliar. But I just want to let you know that that's something that is universal, and pretty much everyone that I know has gone through that, and you have to just power through it, believe in yourself, and within a blink of an eye, you will be officially a New Yorker.
That is amazing. I totally agree with that. For me, the one thing that I've always told myself is to remind myself why I'm here and what I want to achieve with my time like here at NYU. And I think that just having that groundwork can help, especially when you're having like an off day. I'm seeing like another question. It's actually for you, Tanya. How much time did you spend at NASA? How hard / rewarding was it? How competitive would you say was it to get that internship?
Okay. So I did 2 co-ops, like I mentioned, and each one was about 3.5 months long. So all in all, I spent like, including the break in between, it was like somewhat like 8 months, I think. Competitive wise, I can't speak to exactly like the number or the percentage, but I do know that it is highly competitive because I had applied for years and that was the first time that I had heard back. But it was pretty challenging, I will say, especially going from being a student to like directly going into the real world without any industry experience. But it was so rewarding because like right when you come in as an intern, they give you responsibilities as if you're a full-time employee, and like you're given a lot of freedom and independence. So it was like an invaluable learning experience. And I think that's universal for any internship or co-op, regardless of whether it's at NASA or anywhere else.
That's so cool.
Amazing. Thank you, ladies. This was so fun to listen to. I think between the Lego robot, the internship at NASA, like this was probably like my favorite session, and we clearly saved the best topic for last, for sure. That was incredible. So we are going to take some more questions from our audience. I actually had a quick question to kind of kick us off. Both of you talked a little bit about exploration and how, you know, the major that you started with is not the major that you currently are in or the one that you graduated with. And I think that is such an important thing to point out, because a lot of students feel like they have to come in knowing exactly what they want to do and knowing exactly, you know, their 5, 10, 15-year plan. Do you have any advice for folks that, you know, might be wondering where to begin, or just advice about that whole exploration phase that both of you had? Krish, why don't you kick us off?
So first of all, I will have to say, like growing up, my high school experience, you know, within the general rhetoric of like high school per se, it was very STEM focused. All of my classes I took my senior, literally biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, advanced mathematics. And then I came in and I'm doing like finance and corporate finance and accounting and stuff. It's scary. Like that's one thing that you just have to accept, and something that I wish I accepted sooner, because I've always had like this understanding that, oh, it's okay, it's fine, like, you know, let's think about it later. I think that groundwork, and I've mentioned this before too, is really important. And really, like, it's okay, like, you know, you're still learning, you're 18, 19 years old, there's so much left to come. Like I was scared, but understanding your fears and overcoming them, I think needs to happen, and ensuring that you have a good support system around you as well, be it family members, students, friends, anybody can be a support system. So just acknowledging that, you're there, people are there for you too. And it's
Absolutely, I agree. And, I think that another thing that I would just add to that is that adaptability is something that's really important. So having a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan, in my personal opinion, is very good. It's very valuable. Envisioning a future for yourself kind of helps you manifest it happen. But at the same time, life throws curveballs at you all the time. And every single one of us can agree to that in the last year. But just being willing to take whatever comes at you, and whether that's changing your major or studying abroad for a semester when you were actually planning on staying in New York, or whatever it may be, just adaptability is important in order for allowing yourself to have interesting experiences, because if you play it safe, then you may not get to experience something that is truly life-changing, like when I had to take my last semester off to go to NASA.
Yeah, no big deal at all.
Yeah, that's still crazy to me.
Yeah, I think you both have some really great advice, and it's kind of the perfect segue into a question that we have from Daniel, who is wondering about the flexibility of the course schedule at Tandon. So I'm wondering if either of you could speak to how that was. It seems like there is some flexibility because you switched and you swapped. So if you could talk a little bit about that. Tanya, we can start with you this time.
Yeah, so I'm just going to share a personal anecdote. I think that might be helpful. So my summer of my junior year, so that was back in 2016, I learned of this multimedia projects workshop, basically like a summer program in Berlin, which was hosted through NYU Berlin. So it was still an NYU program. And it was like a combination of Tandon and Tisch faculty. So it was the art school and the engineering school together. And that was the first time I actually got to learn about virtual reality. And what was interesting about that is that it was something I was really passionate about, but didn't necessarily fall into my mechanical engineering curriculum. However, at the same time, you do have electives that you can take for any degree. There's a certain number of electives that still count towards what you're doing, even if they have nothing to do with your actual discipline. So I was able to work with my advisor in actually having those classes through a different school in a different country count towards the electives in my degree. And since it was during a summer, that was we're talking about adaptability, it wasn't in my plans to take a summer to do more coursework. I was hoping to get an internship or do some work or something. But the advisors and just NYU faculty in general were very helpful and helped facilitate that to happen, which I think is really helpful, especially if you're planning on, studying away or studying abroad.
Yeah, no, that's great. Chris, do you have anything to add to that question?
I think Tanya summed it up pretty well. The advisor, your first year advisors moving on, very, very a key resource in planning. So,
yeah, I think number one, academic support for sure. That's awesome. So switching gears a little bit, we have a question for Tanya from Siddharth, who is curious about how your NYU education and your NYU network helped you after you graduated.
So one really interesting thing is you find people from NYU everywhere. I feel like I've actually connected with a lot more alumni and even ex-faculty, students who may have done one program at NYU or done a professional certificate, which actually is a good way for me to segue into the fact that I am currently taking a professional certificate course at NYU. It's for mixed reality development. It is an 8-month course for professionals to either pivot their career or kind of bolster an existing discipline. And I know that NYU has similar ones for UI UX and a different type of, I think, 3D graphics. And it's super helpful. It's great to be, and it's through Tandon, which I just love that I'm able to continue my education past graduating and still be connected with my alma mater. But yeah, just kind of to go back to your point, I meet plenty of people from NYU like throughout life in different places at work. And that kind of just stays with you forever. It's a really great feeling when you meet another NYUer. It's like, hey, yeah, we share that in common.
I love that you're back at NYU, Tanya. I had no idea. I love this for us. We had a question earlier, and I hope, Chris, you can speak a little bit to this, but how do you feel about being, a Tandon student? Like, what is it like to be connected with students that are based in Manhattan? Like, what does that all look like as far as the student experience at Tandon?
Well, it's exciting. And the exciting part of it is that you can shape it to how you want your experience to be. Coming in my first year, like I wish I had like gone to every single event that we had during Welcome Week, which is like this 1 week long party, as I like to think of it. But yeah, there's so many events, and through those events you get to meet so many people. I personally enjoy being in Brooklyn, and I enjoy having Manhattan right there. And a lot of people mention that there's a disconnect between the Brooklyn and Manhattan campus. I personally don't agree with that at all, because not only can you maybe take classes there, take your electives there, but you also you're just a 15-minute ride away. And I think that a lot of my best friends are in Manhattan. The whole experience just comes together, especially now that everything is like incorporating. A lot of Tisch classes are in Brooklyn too. So I think just like it's nice to know that we can go back and forth and everybody can just share the NYU experience together.
Yeah, sounds like there's a lot of integration. Go ahead, Tanya, please.
I would just like to add something small to that. I feel like, first of all, I would have been the one to ask that question when I came into NYU. In fact, when I came in, I didn't even realize that it was a separate campus. I was a little bit not totally in the loop, but it was really important for me to be involved in the Manhattan campus, from day one. In your first year, you have to do pretty much everything in Brooklyn because they're trying to get you accustomed to Tandon and the classes and the schedule, all of that. But by my second year, I had moved into an upper class residence hall that was in Chinatown called Lafayette. My third year, I was an RA at 2nd Street, which is on Bond Street in the Village. It's so nice. And I was involved in a lot of different campus activities. Chris, you mentioned Welcome Week. I mean, I made a lot of friends at various different schools during that time. Quick note, you may not actually keep in touch with some of the people that you meet Welcome Week. It's just kind of like a posse that you get to party with, and then you may never see them again, or they may become your lifelong friends. It's really a coin toss. But yeah, I can say I'm an ambassador of being a Brooklyn, Manhattan hybrid student for sure.
Yeah, I definitely see why people think there's such a huge separation, but when you actually get to campus and see, first of all, how close it is, how easy it is to commute back and forth, you realize that it's very much integrated, and both have spoke to that, so appreciate it. So we're gonna take just 2 more questions. So for Tanya, we have Shajia joining us. Again, she's been at every event in the series. We love seeing your name pop up. So she's curious, would you say that minoring in aerospace engineering would be helpful for someone who is aspiring to do something similar with their career like you, as you're doing?
100%, yes. So I personally did not do that. I think that I kind of spoke to the fact that I had a million things on my plate throughout my undergraduate career. So having a minor in anything was really not on the table for me, especially since I prolonged my experience by a year when I interned. But actually, most of my best friends from the mechanical engineering program, it just so happened that they ended up minoring in aerospace, and they've gone on to go to really reputable aerospace companies like SpaceX, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, even NASA. And so I would definitely say that it is beneficial. If you already know that that's something that you want to pursue, then you can start planning from that for that very early on. I didn't necessarily want to go into aerospace, which is why even now I'm actually not doing that as a career full time. But the experience at NASA was kind of, I think I probably got out of that what I would have if I had minored in aerospace. But there's also plenty of other minors that you can choose from. I think like pretty much any major that's available at Tandon. I mean, don't quote me on this. I know it's not every single one, but most of the majors that are offered also offer like kind of a minor situation.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great advice. Thank you. And then our final question before we wrap up for the afternoon, both of you kind of mentioned sort of this entrepreneurial journey a little bit. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that experience a little, just briefly, and maybe talk about some challenges that maybe came with launching your startup. Tanya, I know you did Curtain Call while you were in college. If you could talk a little bit about some challenges that came along with that.
Sure. Yeah. I would really love to hear Krish talk a little bit about her Forbes Incubator experience. But yeah, so like I mentioned, I really utilized NYU's resources in trying to develop this like startup, co-founding it with 3 of my friends. In fact, one of them who went to Steinhardt, Carissa Estillo, we met her through the program. So we didn't know her beforehand. And NYU kind of matched us together, and the Stern 300K competition was so valuable because the whole point is that you kind of go through these different rounds of pitching your proposal and refining it. And you know, you have to conduct some research and show that you actually have data to back up your idea, which are all things that I didn't realize before going into it. I was like, oh, we just have to have a business plan and just like a few slides and just pop in and give a pitch, right? No, it's very, very much more than that. But I learned so much from it. The Entrepreneurial Institute, or the eLab, they had a lot of different events and boot camps that allowed you to learn more about business development plans. And it's also just like the coolest spot on campus to study, in my opinion, personally. But yeah, Krish, please, I would love to hear a little bit more about your experience.
A cool thing about the eLab, and I love to say this on my tours, is that they have free coffee whenever you want it, all the time. But yeah, so my experience is slightly like less traditional in that like stock pitching idea. Well, I got an email like on a random day from NYU Tandon saying that, all right, you know, here's this year's Forbes Idea Incubator Challenge. And anytime I like see Idea Incubator, like we learn about it so much in our classes, especially a lot of my classes are innovation and entrepreneurship focused. So like having a chance to really apply those skills that I've learned in class, I thought it would be like, oh, cool, like let me check it out, you know? And I did, and I signed up, and they paired the faculty, Professor Johnson, she paired me up with 4 other NYU students. And it was pretty much a 9-to-5 day of intense idea generation and prototyping and pitching. And when I say intense, I think I left my seat, this very seat, for like 30 minutes the whole day, but we learned so much. We had people come in from Forbes. We had Moira Forbes come in and talk to us about what they were looking for. We had HR from Audi, and the whole like concept was encouraging women in STEM, or like increasing awareness and encouraging people to go electric, and increasing awareness about electric vehicles. And that's like Audi's initiative. And yeah, we had to pick like a demographic. We picked younger girls because we thought that it would be the easiest to appeal to. And we built this little weird looking like monster car that would actually connect to a VR like headset, and you could play with your car that like you built. And they ended up really liking that. So yeah, it was very like, wow, like it happened so fast.
That's so
very
cool.
excited.
My senior capstone, my senior thesis project was actually a VR controlled robotic car. So we have so much more in common than I realized.
Thank you.
Aligned, and I absolutely love it. It's made this session like just so enjoyable to watch. So we so appreciate you all spending your time with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, but thank you again, Krish and Tanya. This has been just so special. Seeing two ladies in STEM just like warms my heart and makes me remember I am not smart enough to do anything science related, but you know, you both. So I hope for those of you in our audience, you enjoyed our session and had a chance to learn more about NYU and some of the things that you might be able to look forward to as a student. In the meantime, we encourage you to check out all of our offerings on NYU Homebase, where you can find some additional information about our events happening later this evening and on Friday. And be sure to follow us on social media. We are at Meet NYU on all platforms. And with that, thank you all again so much for attending. Congratulations. Have a great day, and we really hope to see you all in the fall. Bye, everyone.